We're going old school tonight, folks. Episode 20. Welcome.
Live from the haunted basement. This is Chuck Banks. Enlightened 30 presents. And the haunted basement, Death the Show, returns. Shut up!
I want to welcome everybody to another great episode of Enlightened 30 Death the Show. I should have looked on my doggone phone here earlier. It is Sunday, October 22nd. We are very, very, very close to Halloween, Samhain, the Day of the Dead, however the hell you want to swing it. And tonight, folks, we have a very special guest, Darren Evans out of Oklahoma. Darren, I'm going to let you kind of take it away tonight. To kind of fill everybody in on who you are and kind of give us some background into this story because, man, this is going to be awesome. And I do have to say this, you look exactly like Ozzy Osbourne. And I think the last time I saw Ozzy Osbourne was in the state of Iowa and he bit a bat head off. So I have to throw that out there right away.
Yeah. Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm a paranormal researcher from Tulsa, Oklahoma, who kind of, just to give you a bit of a background, discovered just a very strange Ouija board phenomenon that in the early 80s, There was a very strange Ouija board found underneath my girlfriend's house that lived along the banks of the Arkansas River, just outside of Tulsa, in what's known as the Sand Springs Line. And that's how my involvement with the paranormal began. It was basically having sessions on a strange double-sided Ouija board, in which one side was a standard William Fold board that I think we traced to the 1930s. A very large, Ouija board. What was weird is it just had two sides, and on one side it had Zozo, the weird name Zozo inscribed on the board itself. So that's where my involvement with what's become known as the Zozo Phenomenon began. Was in the early '80s, and it progressed into hundreds of weird Ouija sessions. I become the guy that, if you didn't believe in the spirit world, you could call me and I'd come over with an entourage of people and Ouija boards, and don't ever remember not convincing someone skeptical that the spirit world exists. And so I haven't changed too much through the years. I don't use the board nearly as much because nothing great ever happens to me when I use one, and that seems to be true with a lot of other folks as well. And so When you think of Ouija boards, you kind of harken yourself back to the early days of horror where there might be a monster under the bed. So it's very controversial. It's always, everybody loves a spooky story, and I happen to have hundreds and hundreds in my archives involving this weird Z entity, as I call it, or I'm perhaps the only person that might be brainless enough to call them a demonologist. There's a demonologist on every corner, and so there's so many of them guys that I decided to change it up a bit. And so I do study these Z entities and how they interplay with people and how they seem to exist throughout history in my research, in finding some very strange parallels between the letter Z and this phenomenon. So it's very controversial. I don't tell people to believe everything that I say. It's up to you. I do include a lot of research in my stuff and in my book, the Zozo Phenomenon, that's been out for a year now, and it has a lot of cool information if people are curious about this weird set of circumstances that continues to play out throughout the world.
Now, I have to dig right in, and I know, Benji, if you have any questions, just flip me off or something so it grabs my attention.
You're good.
I'm extremely interested in hearing kind of the background because from my gathering and my, kind of research within this before I had you on, I wanted to make sure that I at least, gave you some sort of, leeway as far as looking back. And this Zozo, it basically, it goes back to a French girl, right? Is that where you get the name?
Well, I had found a grimoire that was written in the 1800s. That's not.
Uh-oh.
Oh, buddy.
And
he must have got another call.
he'll be right on. So, we'll make sure we go there. But
he'll be back.
Yeah, he's coming back right now. So, the spinning wheel of death sometimes. All right, I'll let you continue, my friend.
Well, you had mentioned that, in history, perhaps what are some of the first mentionings of this Zozo term or symbol or evil comic book character, whatever you want to call it. It has a lot of different faces. But I think you're referring to, the French account. It was written in a French grimoire by Colin de Plancy in various editions in the 1800s called the Dictionary Infernal. And that actually mentions a young girl that was possessed by three separate entities, demons they were called. One of those demons was actually called Zozo. And so I didn't find that out until 2009 when I run across that mentioning. And so that really seemed to validate at the time. And also during that time is when I first came out on paranormal radio with Darkness Dave on his show Darkness Radio. And then when John Zappas came on right afterwards, saying that he had heard of the Zozo entity through his many years of investigating the paranormal. And so that kind of just blew it wide open right there in 2009 when we began to see mentionings in history. And then when the modern invention of, the weird thing about that Zozo account is predated the modern Ouija board, which was, introduced in, the 1891 was when it was, trademarked or whatever. So very interesting that it's mentioned as I don't tell people that I can prove that the account that discusses this case cited by a paranormal, kind of a demonologist guy they called Garanay at the time. I think he was kind of like a John Zappas in those days, a well-known, paranormal guy. He's the one that describes this encounter. And it does have some weird circumstances that involving a sexual perverse nature, which seems to also occur in this modern evolution of Zozo. So, but it's not the first mentioning. It's just one from the 19th century.
For sure. Now, I do have to caution the listeners tonight. Sometimes we definitely preach a lot of love and light and all that good stuff. Out there in Light and 30 Death, the show happens to be one of the darker shows that we have on the network. So anyway, I want to throw that out there, a little bit of caution out there for folks out there, because wouldn't you agree, Darren, that the Ouija boards themselves, if these people are not properly protected, if these people are not even properly trained, they shouldn't even be messing with them, right?
Well, that's the age-old question when it comes to these things, and you open yourself up for a lot of debate, a lot of criticism from the proponents of the board, which are more and more in number. There's more and more people that are, believe it or not, that are using Ouija boards now than any other time in history. And I think it's pretty much because you've witnessed the whole popularity of paranormal shows like Ghost Adventures and all these different shows on Destination America. It's almost become a 24/7 paranormal entertainment thing on television. So it's there's a lot of people interested in the paranormal like never before. And one of the first things they do, your average paranormal enthusiast, might be to get on a Ouija board. And so sometimes that's not a good idea for certain people, and for me it wasn't. Definitely had some mind-bending experiences that I describe in the book. And a lot of other people have described very similar stories in their dealings with this thing.
I think we lost him again. Okay.
Hold on here a minute, Chuck, because I actually got an emergency call from work. I'm going to have to run in and leave you with him as soon as I get 2 cameras set up for you.
Okay.
So I will be back, though. I do promise this. Just got to give me a second here, and I will get you guys set up. Go ahead and keep talking. I just got to get the camera set up here. So
be careful.
Yes. Be careful and hurry back, but don't hurry back so fast you get a ticket or in a wreck. Okay.
I'll try not to.
Okay, so my mind is totally messed right now. I have to refocus here a little bit. Here's where I was going to go with it. I've had the opportunity or the blessing to meet, oh my God, that it totally went blank again. The lovely Karen, why can't I remember Karen's last name all of a sudden? Tell you what, Darren, my feeble old brain just sometimes doesn't work, but it'll come back to me. I think
you'd be referring to Karen Dahlman.
Yes, Karen Dahlman is a lovely human being. I've had an opportunity to have her on several of my shows, and I can guarantee you that if she's watching tonight, she's going to punch me in the face because I couldn't remember her last name. That's crazy when when that sort of stuff happens. But she's kind of positive with it. I've had that kind of take with it. Now, you look back. Do you see yourself as becoming almost mortally addicted? Especially to that older board, you know what I mean, when you were first using
it. Did I find myself addicted to the Ouija board?
Yeah.
Definitely. And I've known lots of people that remain that way. It may be that, people are kind of wired for adventure and drama and fear and all these types of things, and so it's not unlike an illicit drug cocktail to certain people. It becomes very habit forming, very addictive, and that doesn't always happen. But it's I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's pretty common that people do become OCD, obsessive, addictive, whatever label you want to put on it. People are using this thing and having problems putting it down after a period of time.
And it's much like, whether you want to listen to an EVP recorder, whether you want to listen to a ghost box or anything like that. I mean, they're all tools, basically to contact the dead. And, the Ouija board just happens to be, something that's been around a lot longer. Yeah, you know what I'm saying when we look at, tools to contact the dead. Now, Jen B has a question. She said you had mentioned that Zozo has a sexual nature. Do you feel that that Zozo is an incubus or a succubus?
In my opinion, it does have those characteristics based on other people's reports of sexual connections and weird goings-ons in darkened rooms behind closed doors with this thing. So as crazy as it may sound, there's been a lot of people talk about that and share their experiences with this thing on that succubus incubus level. So I think it's a pretty safe bet that it's into that kind of stuff.
For sure. Now, I am going to ask Shay and Jen, if you wouldn't mind, if you can look at the chat room in Facebook Live. I cannot, because of the snail's pace internet that we have in Iowa. I can only basically take a look at the chat room within Spreaker. So I apologize to all those listeners out there, and I know that those two will be able to handle that, if we have any more questions. Now, I got to take you all the way back. You discover this board. On one side of the board, was it regular, and then on the other side of the board, was it different?
Yes.
Okay.
It had wings outside of where somebody had engraved Zozo, taking the place of where Ouija would be on a regular board. And so it was like a homage to this thing, and it had all kinds of symbols, scratch marks, burn marks. It was a work of art. Somebody had spent a lot of time in its manufacture, and it was just, you could look at this thing and you could just tell that something wasn't right with it, And I was a rebellious teenager, and trying to impress my girlfriend, of course. We began to have sessions on this board, and it would commonly, we didn't like using, the Z side or the dark side, as we often called it, because it just looked too weird. Common sense, was kind of more common back then than it might be today, I think, but evidently not, because I continued using the board. But what was weird is the various planches that we would use, it would often go off the board on the regular side, or the regular standard William Fold side. But the planchet would come off, and it would commonly scoot the board off the table, making it land on the floor, and it would often land dark side up, like it wanted us on that other side. So it's and it would even tell us, "See you on the other side." So that was very bizarre. And I remember thinking that maybe all these boards are double-sided like that way back then, And of course, that wasn't the case. It's one of the only ones that I've ever seen that was double-sided, and kind of looked like it was grafted onto itself in a weird way. Again, it was a work of art, and it was a very active board. It looked like something you'd see out of a horror movie for sure.
What did it? Now, obviously, you've used both sides of the board, but what did it feel like as far as differences? Whether it be the right side board or it flipped over. And I looked over, and there's my daughter. She kind of scared the shit out of me. I apologize for that.
It wasn't really that much different as far as visually it was, but as far as the way it worked, there wasn't hardly any difference. It would always spell out words very quickly, deliberately, very quick to cuss you in a weird biblical Hebrew. It knew different languages. It would ask me to chant certain words. I really got deep into this thing, and it commonly tells people that it's their guardian angel, will grant them certain supernatural powers. This thing would tell us to, it told us there was a human body buried in the backyard. We followed the planchet all the way to the backyard and dug up bones exactly where it said it was. It turned out to be dog bones, so I guess it lied about it being, a human body, but nonetheless creepy.
No kidding. No kidding. Any time that that it can give you that clear relevance, as to any time that you're communicating with the other side. That is definitely creepy. Now, I've seen the show on Ghost Adventures. Where you talk about the Zozo house, correct?
Correct.
Now, take us back, or take my listeners back to, living in that home. I mean, is this the area in which you discovered the board, or did you just play this board? And by no means is it playing or anything, but did you communicate with other spirits with the board in the home?
I did. The Zozo Demon House, as it became known from the Ghost Adventures episode, was a house that I moved into about a year after I began my public research of the Zozo Phenomenon. And so this isn't where the Z House wasn't where the double-sided board was found. That was in Tulsa. The Z House is in Oklahoma City. And I can tell you that living there was very, very strange experience. It's just every night something weird was going on. And even though I wasn't on the board, I'd found out that my son and his girlfriend were using the board.
Oh.
It'd been a long time since I'd seen him. He was curious. He'd heard stories, from my usage, and he never really got into that until a later age when we happened to live in that house. And so the stairs on that place was incredibly creepy. You could not take any furnishings from the bottom floor to the top 4 bedrooms through this very narrow, creepy, creaky stairway in the middle of this house. And so just its very construction was very strange. I've been in construction for 30 years, and the way this house was built, it just gave you a feeling. And I remember Nick Groff and Aaron commenting about when you walk in this house, because the floors are so crooked and were built that way, that it reminds you of I don't know if the people that maybe have gone to Knott's Berry Farm, and there's a particular attraction where everything's kind of off level and everything. That it gives you that very uneasy, dizzy type feeling just being in the house, and so it was perhaps one of the strangest, and weirdest, creepiest places that I've ever lived.
Man, now, and only if you feel comfortable with it, but some of the experiences that you experienced while you were researching this Zozo phenomenon, and this is coming from an outside person looking in. Did you ever feel that even when you were investigating this, whether it be in a book, whether it be on the computer, whatever, did you ever feel that spirit come right behind you, like it was like this darker spirit was around you pretty much the whole time you were doing this research?
There were periods of time when I definitely believe it was there. The disturbing part for me is every time I use a board, it's there. And it acts like it's never left. And it told me a long time ago that it never would leave. And that's not something you want to confess or admit. But, I don't want to say that I have an attachment, but there's a lot of people that are convinced that they do after getting on a board and talking this thing. And when for 30 years I've been dealing with this, and it's been for it to become what it has now is very perplexing and disturbing for me, just in the sheer enormity of the people claiming to have contact with it. I mean, you've got YouTube stars that are competing for ratings. They're all using, the Ouija board and confronting Zozo or claim that they are. And I don't know how many of these accounts are true or how much of it's bullshit. But the fact that it's so saturated out there, I pretty much regret even coming forward with my research, because it seems like it's become, it seems like I've created a monster when, and a lot of my skeptics claim that I basically made all this stuff up, but they don't want to debate me on live radio, which I've often told them that I will do. They claim that, I basically invented this thing in 2009. Well, that's kind of strange when the stories And I've on my blog, I've shown stories from way years before I even went public with people reporting this on Ouija boards. And so it's not something that I made up. It's happened to a lot of people before it happened to me. I just happened to be.
And it looks like that I've lost him. I hope from the network center that he'll be right back, and here he is spinning back, and we definitely appreciate you here. All right, you were talking there before you went out, Darren, about this stuff being there long even before you. You know what I'm saying. I think that's where you were at.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that, and I understand the controversial nature of this phenomenon. I don't expect everybody to believe it. It's up to them. I don't force feed my beliefs on this phenomenon to anybody. I do some radio shows. I've been on TV a few times. I have my beliefs, but those are mine. If you read my book, I'm not looking for attention as far as trying to convince people that this thing is, a demon. But a lot of the research does point it, at least in mentioned history of it being from a demonic source. And I found several mentionings of it being a demon in different languages, different geographical points. This very strange term, the whole Zeppelin connection, there's just, it's really, it really goes deep, having, it kind of caused me to have to look into the fascinating history of the letter Z itself, which only in the last 125 years was actually called Z. It was called Izzard. It had some other pronunciations. It was actually banned from several languages, such as early Latin. And so that's one cool thing about, being, I love being a researcher because you can tie this stuff in to other topics of interest, UFOs, strange sightings in the sky, with all the chemtrails going on. I just took a picture the other day of an enormous Z in the middle of the sky.
Wow.
Hovering above Oral Roberts University. There's a lot of strange things that seem to be just going on all around us. It rained a weird spider web thing. It was all over everybody's trees and cars, and it's not spider webs, and so it's. I'm always interested in in this type of stuff, and it just and the Z phenomenon continues to be just one of the strangest ducks in the paranormal. I tell you.
For sure. Now, I want to come back to that Zeppelin side of things here in a little bit because I happen to be a huge Zeppelin fan. But before that, we got a couple questions, and George has joined us over in the Spreaker chat. George, if you wouldn't mind, you said you came over from Facebook. Would you let me know whether or not that's going well? Because the big B, Benji, in the terminal has had to leave. Let's see here. A couple questions. Candy says or asks, do you need the board to feel that this Zozo is around?
It used to be the case of that you would need a board to communicate with it, but here in the last 3 years, it's made a definite impact in like ghost boxes, dreams, sleep paralysis incidents. Pendulums, automated writing, it comes through in games, cartoons, movies. It really seems to attach itself to almost what's known as a synchro-mystical type of thing, where it feeds on itself. It's almost egregorial in nature in how it's continues to seem to evolve and escape the board, so to speak.
For sure. Now, let's see. I've got to try to wiggle my way back up here. Nicole, out of the Facebook chat, and thank you, Candy, for monitoring that until Benji just got back. Nicole wants to know, what was your most scary experience with the board itself?
What was one of my strangest or scariest experiences?
Yes.
With the board? Scariest one. There's been lots of different scary things that have happened. For me, probably being told that I was going to die by a stab wound and then getting stabbed and nearly dying from that stab wound, that was pretty scary. So I often tell people not to, if you must mess around on a Ouija board, I would be very careful in the way that you ask questions pertaining to future events and death. Because I've had two very close friends that died in the exact manner that it said they were going to. And then it said if I was going to die by stab wound. Well, I didn't at that time. And so they don't always come true, but there's a self-fulfilling prophecy risk that goes into these Ouija board sessions when you begin planting those seeds of destruction when it comes to future events.
For sure. And I do have to share an experience with you. When I was 16, we were messing with the board one night, and the board said that I would die at 41. And just to kind of, throw a little bit of authenticity to your story there, when I was 41, I had a heart attack and nearly died. So it's scary sometimes how accurate or how close, that this thing can articulate and put things in play. I'm also a true believer in, this idea that, Ouija boards can bring spiritual attachments, not necessarily, but can. And I definitely have to give you a little bit of relevance, back with that. Benji, welcome back to the show, my brother.
Thank you. And I apologize for having to take off like that, but I'm carrying what I call the cursed phone. All of us actually at work call it the cursed phone. We all have to carry it for a week at a time. It's the emergency on-call phone, and we had a dorm lose power. I work at a university, Darren, if you didn't know that. I work at a university. But one of the perks of living 12 blocks away from where you work in a town of less than 5,000 people is that you can get there and back pretty damn quick.
That was quick.
Crisis averted, and I'm back, and I pray to God for the rest of the show this stupid phone doesn't ring again.
For sure. And I also, here before we move a little bit forward, I got to throw this out there. Special shout out to George Turner. And just so everyone knows, the Mystic Parliament is a print publication, and it has articles on the paranormal, metaphysics, myths, and folklore and related topics. And he's going to be bringing that out of his 11-month hiatus in November. So we're excited about that, George. And again, buddy, you are always a brother of the network, and I have to throw that out there for all of us, with it. Now, back to these scary stories. Now, nothing can be scarier than the board saying you're going to be stabbed to death. Now, out of your years of working with this phenomenon, when did people start reaching out to you, Darren? And when the shit was going to hit the fan here, and they needed your help, when did they start doing that? And then how often does this happen? Does this happen like after a lot of these Hollywood movies when they come out, where people that are not, grounded enough or protected enough to handle these devices? Or do you think that this is kind of, a self-fulfilling prophecy that happens on and on and on?
Well, there's a lot of people that say, that the film The Exorcist kind of initiated the Ouija board's bad reputation. And there's some truth to that. But I did some interesting research when it comes to digging up stories with very dark forces and attachments and hauntings that have developed before the film The Exorcist, such as back even before the board was released as a talking device. They used planchets and dialing plates and different things to speak to the spirit world. And even then, they were running across very strange named entities that did not have your best interest at heart. And so a lot of these books were written, the spirit movement and the occult and everything. But I did find it very interesting that I was just able to dig up all these different accounts of dark entities coming through in spirit communication. So, folks, it's not just The Exorcist. This bad reputation of the Ouija board was not born in 1974 3 or whenever the Exorcist came out. It goes way back further than that, and it's just weird how certain people can get on a board and it may not move. And then it's weird when you may have 3 or 4 people get on a board and it begins moving very quickly and deliberately spelling out very intelligent communication exchanges between the parties. And so my question to the scientists, which I've interviewed scientists at different universities who, such as at UNB, when they were using the Ouija board to experiment with the subconscious. What is it when 3 or 4 people have their fingers on the planchette that it's able to resolve instantaneously and magically everybody's thought process and make it, start spelling meaningful, sentences? So there's no explanation for that. And so there were some very strange experiments and some data logged, with these researchers that didn't believe it was paranormal, but yet they have no explanations for certain parts of their research how it happened. So it's just a weird deal. Anytime you bring up the Ouija board, you're going to get people cussing, spitting, hollering. Religion's involved, faith. It's never going to go away. It's going to be very controversial. I'm a controversial guy because I'll tell it to you like it is. I deal with the darker aspects of this phenomenon, have been for 10 years. And as early as 2009, people began coming to me for help with what's going on, with this thing. And so then a decade later, I don't have any easy answers to give people as far as getting rid of it and stuff like that. And so I call it as I see it. And, people can believe me or they can believe their own faith. And I encourage people to just look at the evidence and look at the research before you just automatically say it's just bullshit and it doesn't exist.
Now, I have to throw this out there here before I ask George's question, because I think it goes into it rather easily. Way back when, and I do have to caution, anytime that we bring up these names, folks, you listeners out there, be sure you're grounded, be sure you're protected in your own way. But I do want to share this story with Darren because I think it's relevant, and it's gonna help me out, as far as understanding my personal situation with the board itself years ago. But when I was 16. The name Asmodeus came out, okay, which he's also a very sexually perverse, aspect of this. And Darren, I'm going to share an EVP out of White Noise here in a little bit to you. And and damn sure when I asked if it could say its name, it said A-Z, and which is relevant. And right now my hair's standing up because just sharing this with you. You understand it, whereas there's a lot of people out there that don't understand that phenomenon. But I wanted to throw that in there before I asked George's question because it's kind of relevant with that. And I can't scroll up, so Benji, you're going to have to ask the question.
George Turner in the Spreaker chat asks, does Darren think or believe that Zozo is the entity's real name or a moniker?
That's something that I've been obsessed with now for 20 years because it did tell me in early sessions that the key to its power was in its name. And, the whole Zeppelin thing with Jimmy Page using the Zozo, not a word, but a symbol or a sigil. I think that I don't necessarily believe that Zozo is its real name. No, I do not. But this thing doesn't really show typical fingerprints when it comes to the demonic. It appears to be to be something different, but still from that realm. And so, when I found an account in the 17th century involving an early Pope Bernardino, this guy was known forever for putting on huge sermons. And huge crowds of people would come to this Pope as he gave his sermons. Well, he described something that he called the Mass of Zozo. which he described in Latin as the commune omnium daemonum, which basically is defined from Latin as common to all demons. I found that very, very strange and very pertinent, because I think that it's almost like a sigil portal that allows these negative entities to come. Perhaps it is something from a hellish environment or belief system. But the thing about it is, it's definitely evil. It does not have your best interest, and so whatever label we want to put on it, as far as what our language will allow, as far as descriptive, we don't know if it's a demon or a ghost or a poltergeist or what it is, and that's typifying it or labeling it is not something I've ever really had an interest in. Of course, we want to look at its origins and its mentionings, and we want to try to come up with some type of logical classification for it. But I think the name itself, it evades me. But I think it has some type of magic involved in that particular name.
For sure. Now, Sarah, great friend of mine, she says Zozo is the opposite of Sozo. Sozo means saved, made whole, and healed. So that makes sense.
Yeah, the whole Zozo movement with these Zozo churches that have been popping up now for like a decade, and they don't have the best reputation from what I understand, but I mean, I'm not here to judge anybody or anybody's faith, but it is, when I found out about the Zozo and how that means in Greek, the whole, the divine aspect of fellowship and all these different meanings of Zozo. And so it's almost like this thing is using that in an opposite, which I found interesting research in studying Hebrew. When you place the Ayin Zayin, okay, which the Ayin being the letter O and then the Zayin being the letter Z, it's in Hebrew. Each alphabetical character also has a corresponding color and vibration. And a lot of it has to do, and in magic and in the occult, is how you place these letters that have this significance. Crowley was big into that. And so basically, and I've got links to this research on my blog site, Darren Evans Paranormal. Type that in Google, you'll come to it. But basically, it means, I've read research where when you place the Z and the O, or the Zayin and the A in the Hebrew language, it's a negative, as opposed to reversing those two and having odds, which is supposed to be a positive vibration in just the placement of the letters themselves. And so also it's common in history for the S and the Z to commonly be interchangeable, with the letter Z having a very dark reputation in linguistics and etymology. So people think I'm crazy for looking at the letter Z, but all these different strain. And you mentioned in your experience that it said AZ.
Yeah.
Well, that could be the whole Zaza or the Za aspect. And so these letters have meanings to these entities, and they'll tell you that they do. And they have numerology. They have meanings in the occult. And so it's just weird how these things are kind of gravitated towards the letter Z, which Shakespeare called the horse on Z, the letter of the zigzag, the letter of prophecy, the letter of discontinuity. It's just weird how this letter Z is the most least used alphabet in our language, but yet it seems to have some type of weird phonetic power. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, and I understand it. And you brought up a Crowley reference, and I do have a picture. Maybe I'll send it to you after the show. But when we were, and I got into this self-investigative stuff shortly after my dad passed. We started to have a lot of paranormal activity. As I was starting to open up as a psychic medium, and what I noticed is in a couple of my pictures. As we were doing the investigating, it appears to be Aleister Crowley, but I'll I'll post that definitely on our show's link and let you take a look at that as well, because there's definitely significance there. Are you interested in hearing this EVP and kind of let me know, what do you think? I mean, it's based on kind of white noise and a recorder.
Sure.
Okay. All right, let's fire it up here. It's 1 minute, 2 seconds. Here we go.
All right. Does your name begin with an A? Can you give me the first 2 letters of your name? Is that you making me feel cold? Jesus Christ is protecting me. You know that, right?
All right. Now, I know only hearing it one time. I can send you that MP3 as well and kind of let you chew it up, spit it out, and let me know. But, and it is kind of hard to hear, this way. But I'll make sure that you have that. It's that was a night that
it's great. I'd love to have it. It's very interesting. It's definitely sounds like some intelligent exchange going on.
Yeah, and I won't lie to you. When I played that back, and after I said Jesus Christ is protecting me, it says Jesus ain't happening, F off, or that's kind of what I can make out of it, and a lot of people, they've added on it as well. But it's definitely interesting. But it does sound like this spirit says Z even before A there. So it's I don't know.
Yeah, I heard it.
So
I definitely heard. I thought I heard it twice, where it almost sounded like a whisper of the letter Z.
Yeah. So I will make sure that you have that, as well as access to all my pictures that I had, as I was kind of thrown into this thing. And I won't lie to you, I have not self-investigated in over, I would say, almost a year and a half, and for good reason. And it's not been as crazy, but I will tell you this: prior to having you on the show, it got a little bit more active than normal. So that's interesting as well.
I just had one of my books go flying across the room over the summer. It was one of the most violent things that I've seen in a long time, and that was right after the Goatman's Bridge investigation with Live Sci-Fi, which is a crazy place. The whole forestry out there where people, lots of people have come up missing, and their bodies found in this huge section of forestry outside of Denton, Texas. But it's until you have your own paranormal experience, you're probably not going to be as enthusiastic about this evidence as we are. And until you do have one, you're just not going to be in that same vibration as people like us. That when you believe in something, I think that makes it more possible for it to manifest. And it's very strange.
It is definitely a strange phenomenon. Now I have to ask my cohort Benji if he has questions, but if anyone is asking questions in the chat.
No, I think he's got everybody deeply engaged in the subject, because nobody is asking any questions. Jen has ditched us, though, for some premiere of
this Walking Dead
TV
crap. Come on,
tonight.
DVR that crap and listen to us.
That's what I said. I said that's what DVR is for. That's what DVR is for.
Great. Now Darren's going to be like, I'm done, man. Walking Dead's on. Screw you two.
Oh, man. No, I don't. See, because I was listening on Spreaker, but because I missed so much, I don't know what has been asked. So if this has been asked, or if you have mentioned this, I apologize. But Shay's getting a question ready, and while she's doing that, I do have a kind of a question. What is your feeling on the older boards versus like the, what is it, Parker Brothers or Milton Bradley or whoever it was made a toy version of the board? Is there any real difference in whether one works where the other one doesn't, or do they both work about the same?
I think it depends on the individual, but I think for me, they actually have a tendency to work better on homemade boards than they do on the mass manufactured ones. And that's been shared with me from a lot of people. It really makes no difference, aside from the cosmetic appearance, and some of the older boards definitely have a more vintage look to them, or antique look, which puts them into a different prize vault of the mind, so to speak. But I actually, I have a few boards still. I've designed my own. I'm an artist, and I like to incorporate different design approaches to it, such as the Supernatural board based on the television series was quite odd in that it was missing the letter Z, which a spokesperson said that was done on accident by the design team, which is pretty ridiculous.
I'll call bullshit on that, right?
I call bullshit on that from day one.
I call bullshit on that too.
This was a very successful board, that was mass produced, and so it's missing the old letter Z on it. So what does that tell you? What's going on behind the scenes? Are they aware of this? Of course they are. The whole timing of this whole week, I predicted back in 2010 when William Goldner was directing, here's the CEO of Hasbro Toys that has decided it's just a game, but they're going to make a horror film and they own it. That's crazy. For them to say it's just a game and then make this horror movie based on evil, that's kind of dirty pool, if you ask me. But pretty cool movies. Unfortunately, it's caused a whole new can of worms across the world as far as these boards being, they're risen in popularity. It's causing more and more people to get on these boards. And so I warned people a long time ago, as the efforts continue to keep putting these boards out there and marketing them to children, so too should the efforts to warn people that these things can cause psychological problems, as well as full-blown hauntings and attachments. Yes, I said it.
Yes, and I agree with you. And like last Christmas, my daughter comes up to me and says, "Dad, there's a really beautiful pink Ouija board." And I said, "Not on your life, sweetheart." It's one of those things.
I used to have a glow-in-the-dark one before the fire.
Oh, that's...
Actually, I had a glow-in-the-dark one. I had my dad's old one. That was the mass-produced one. I can't remember what brand actually mass-produced it, but I do have another question from the chat. Shay in the chat in Spreaker wants to know, for those who try to use it and it goes bad, what is the best disposal method? She has her own ideas, although she won't use them. And we lost them again.
Okay, and you know what? I'm going to guess that Darren will be right back. I'm going to guess that he had a phone call.
Yep.
But
that seems to be what happens when he's using his phone for Skype. All right, Andy's back.
He didn't want to answer the damn question. He was like, "Screw this, I'm out of here."
I'm out, guys. No, I've always told people to be careful about how they dispose of them, because I know that I had a couple that I frisbeed out the back porch at Sand Springs. It came back somehow. I've burnt boards. I don't suggest people ever do that. I've had some very strange. A buddy of mine got put in the hospital one night with some burning gasoline.
Remind me.
Tried to set one on fire.
Yeah, remind me to tell you about my burning of the board. I don't mean to interrupt, but remind me to tell you about when I burnt my board after you're done with that question.
if you really want to get rid of a board, chop it up into four different pieces, put it in 4 different pieces of plastic, and put it in 4 different trash cans. That's what I've always told people, and it works.
It's a good idea. I kind of wish I would have done that. I was actually at a great friend of mine, one of my mentors, a shaman. I'll just call her Hawk, and she said to burn it. And a lot of the Lakota traditions, that's what they do. But upon burning this board, there was it was a crazy fluorescent neon green smoke that came out of it. Was it because the board had a little bit of plastic? I can't, you know what I mean, say anything, yay or nay. But I will tell you that seeing something, kind of run from that direction in a darker, like shadowy figure representation, that's what scared me. But yeah, it's crazy.
All right, I don't really remember any good happening from setting ablaze these Ouija boards. I don't think it's a good practice.
Benji?
Yeah, we've got another question. This one's from Facebook. Candy wants to know, after your recovery from the stab wound that you almost died from, what was foreseen by Z? Answering your question, have you felt stronger in your own belief system since you beat the odds?
Not really. This thing is just, the horror stories that I've had the cases that I've worked that I can't even talk about, involving frightening, terrifying subject matter. What I went through, it is pretty scary, but it's nothing compared to what some people have gone through. And I've worked a couple of suicides involving military people that had contacted me with problems, and then they wind up committing suicide. People have gotten into tragic accidents after having conversations with this thing. And so I guess when you work with the dark for so long and you hear so many stories, perhaps that type of stuff is attracted to me, or I'm attracted. I mean, I don't know. I believe in God. I go to church, not religiously, but I do go to church from time to time, and I enjoy it, and I pray. And so that might seem really weird to a lot of people, but I think it protects me, and I think that my belief system has grown stronger because of the Ouija board.
And that,
interesting response.
It makes absolute sense. And until you see or experience the darkness, you really can't appreciate the light. Especially from my vantage point, that's something that my experience over the years in this little thing called the paranormal. It's crazy to say the least. And do you find often, anytime that you're brought in on an investigation, Darren, that sometimes it's like it's calling you back? Because I've experienced that, or at least I think I have.
Yeah. Recently, I've started working with a small team from Bartlesville, Oklahoma, called the Geeks Crew, and it's basically some just nice ladies in Bartlesville, Oklahoma that they approach things a lot differently than I do. I've actually learned a few things, and I'm not as more of a researcher. I'm getting more into the actual investigating side of things, and I've been very fortunate to have worked with Ghost Adventures and Live Sci-Fi and Zappos and Rosemary and Merch. I mean, I've been very blessed to work with some very interesting people, really cool people, and so it's in my blood. It's a lot of fun, and I would rather have fun in the paranormal than constantly be talking about something so dark. And, I'm not obsessed with it anymore. I used to go on radio shows all the time, and it's just, this is the first one I've done in a few months. I might do a show every 4 or 5 months or whatever, because it can be obsessive, and it can, the more you think about this kind of thing, the more you are drawn towards it. Like is drawn into itself. Laws of attraction, laws of recognition, laws of all types of laws involved when you roll the dice, the crap dice of the Ouija board. You don't know who you're going to talk to. Be careful what you ask for, because it can come true. You know, those are some of the most frightening aspects of this Ouija phenomenon itself. Is what do you bring upon yourself by just merely involving yourself with it? You know, and you know, I'm going to get hate mail tomorrow. I guarantee it. That's okay. I don't care. You know.
I tend to get a little bit of hate mail occasionally too, but the good thing about social media is you can say, okay, you're blocked. There you go, asshole. Anyway. Oh man. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Now I want to go back to the Goat Man's Bridge. Is that the bridge where there was actually a Ouija board painted on the bridge?
There was at one time. It's since been either erased or just natural erosion, because I had seen that painting. Somebody painted on, you know, a Ouija board on there like a year before I got there the first time. And I wasn't able to find it, but I can tell you using a board on that damn bridge was pretty strange, especially during the full solar eclipse. You know, that was weird.
So you
more so than the bridge itself is the surrounding haunted woods. That's where the crazy stuff really happens, as far as what I felt and what I saw.
You used a board on the solar eclipse here recently?
Yes.
What was that like? I'm interested to see what that experience entailed.
That was very unusual. I can tell you, just you know, don't know that it's ever been done on the Goat Man's Bridge in the middle of the daytime. And I can tell you that we got some very strange looks from the locals that would come up to the bridge and then figure out that there were obviously some mental challenged people using the board up on the bridge. I can tell you they turned around. Most of them turned around immediately and just walked the other way. There was a few stragglers, though, that just kind of like to watch just to see what the hell might happen. We used mirrors. There was gigantic spider webs, natural spider webs, spanning the entire distance of the top of the bridge, right on top of us. So that was very weird. You know, that the whole thing, you know, with the solar eclipse, doing the board at the same time. I've done the board under Gonspield sensory deprivation. I've thrown myself out there in search of, you know, what happens during these experiences. So I don't advise, you know, telling people to go use boards, and then here I am known to go use them from time to time. So don't have any honest answers for that other than curiosity killed the cat, and I want to know if this fucking thing's still there. You know.
Absolutely, and I'm gonna guess that it reared its ugly head, is kind of the old saying goes, right?
Yeah, you know, it used to. If that bear, it definitely you know, peeks into the tent from time to time, and so you know what? And I think I haven't said this yet, but I think the most important part of dealing with this for anybody that gets on the board and this thing surfaces and identifies itself by name. If you show fear, or if you are fearful of it, I can promise you that it's going to make it worse, because I do believe that it feeds off of that energy, that negative fear. It's like gasoline, you know. And so it's very scary when you're talking to it, and it has frightened thousands of people. But get yourself in a frame of mind, get away from the board for a while, don't use it, get rid of it, and just don't be afraid, and it'll go away.
Now, you know, you brought up that four-letter word, that four-letter F word, fear, that gets most of us, whether we like to admit it or not. You know, going back, would you say that when you were playing with this board, you were really infatuated with it, when this phenomenon was really causing a lot of havoc with you and your family? Do you feel that, were you fearful, or was it like was it like this adrenaline that was taking shape?
There was both of that going on, and there was times where I was so scared that I literally cried. There were times that me and my daughter and some family members were holed up in one particular room that we called the safe room, because the activity seemed to dissipate in that room. And yes, I was very fearful, and that it seems like I've had to condition myself out of necessity not to be fearful of it anymore, because if I get on a board, the worst thing I'm going to do to myself is get scared again and go through that whole thing again. So I kind of I'm kind of long hair swinging middle finger in the air with it now. It hasn't killed me yet, and I have exposed it to the world. I don't know if that was the right thing to do, but it was going to happen, sooner or later. And so I continue to research it, keep up with it, because that's just what I do, I guess.
Now, go take us back to you visited the Zozo house here recently, correct?
Last October.
Okay, take us back to that experience. And did it? What was it like? Obviously, and did you experience anything like fear or anything like that during that time period?
I did experience fear, but I overcame it in that house because I actually got a chance to investigate it by myself, wandering around in the basement in a hole that I had not found before, that led to a secret part of the house that I'd never seen before. Perhaps the scariest thing that happened when we went back last October was towards the end of the investigation. I heard a very strange, like a very large insect scurrying across the ceiling back and forth. That was weird, but the family was getting terrorized that lived there, and so I was able to bring in a very well-known exorcist here locally, Everett Cox, who was a very controversial exorcist, and so they didn't report any more phenomenon after we were done. And so I think it's very important that when you go on these investigations that you include getting the family help as opposed to just your own selfish needs and trying to capture evidence. I think you really got to. And that's one thing that Zach Bagans did overlook in that investigation in the Z House. They sure went and got cleansed, but they didn't give a shit about anybody else. We discussed that. I respect Zach a lot. When I say that like I'd say it to his face. He is a friend, and we enjoy working with one another. He's been nothing but respectful towards me. All those guys at Ghost Adventures are a lot of fun to work with, and perhaps the best at what they do. When you see them guys work, using their gadgets, just being on top of their game, very serious. But I can tell you, man, before they go into investigation, they get into a group hug, like a huddle, and they start bouncing around, and you never know what they're going to say and pumping each other up. To be a part of that closeness is probably the most beneficial, rewarding aspect of my experience with those guys, because it made you feel like you were part of the team, and I hope to be back with them sometime in the future.
For sure. Now, Benji, I know you have a question.
I don't have a question, but Candy on Facebook has a question, and she's not asking for specifics or anything like that, but she is interested in knowing if Darren, if your ex-girlfriend ever got herself back on track, and if she's out of jail after the situation.
Last I heard, she was in Rogers County Jail around here somewhere. It's weird though. She just tried to call me as we were doing this show. So,
oh, Jesus!
Whoa!
So that was weird, but it's not I don't really. I'm not really involved with her, so I don't know how she's doing. I don't really keep up with her that much, and so I really can't. I don't know if she's still messing up or not. I would probably say yes, knowing her. So we'll just keep it at that.
Okay. True.
Well, that's just pure irony right there. That probably one of the times you got kicked off The
Yeah, that
video was her
he-
calling.
Absolutely.
Oh man,
He was
and
psychic or something.
Facebook Live just saw me spit my tobacco juice in my bottle. I apologize, folks. I try to lean over, but I was like, "Holy shit, he's talking about that!" And then here we go. Anyway, let's talk about let's get into this fruity tooty here before we get real dark later. And well, we've been pretty dark, but Zach Bagans, and this guy probably hates my guts because I pronunciated his name Zach Baggins for years. And what's it like to hang out with those guys? They're all obviously we see the Hollywood version, but are they jokesters? Are they pranksters sometimes? Or because we don't get to see them in their true light.
They are some pranksters, yes. However, they're very serious. Zach's probably the most intense person to investigate with because he's on top of his game. He knows what he wants to do, and he runs a very tight ship. I can tell you that he's got armed security around him at all times. You cannot smoke within 50 foot of the guy, or somebody will tackle you. So.
I just figured with his monster biceps, he'd be good.
Aaron is just as funny, if not funnier, away from all that stuff as he is when he's got the old eyebrow going, and he doesn't have a good feeling about this man, and there's just a camaraderie that you feel working with them guys that you become a part of. That's much, very unlike anything that I've ever experienced. And I can say the same thing with Tim Wood at Live Sci-Fi. There's another guy that just very extreme, but pushes things to the edge. And it's funny, he tries to scare me, but he doesn't scare me. He tries, but those guys at Ghost Adventures, man, they know their cameras so well. It's just like second nature to them. And when you know your instruments that well, you begin to get better pieces of evidence. And of course, it is a show, though. You have to take that in mind. And and having been involved in some of those larger network shows, and then scaling down and being a part of just a grassroots paranormal, it's way different, and both of them are very cool. But I'm not going to put down a show for, making it a show. You can't just be Mr. Boring. You've got to have some pizzazz, some enthusiasm. Got to be something about you that people like, and there's a reason why they always go back to Ghost Adventures. Those guys are fun to work with. They're intense. They capture evidence, and they're just a lot of fun to work with. They're great. I love them.
For sure. Now, have you had the opportunity to check out Zach's museum in Las Vegas?
I haven't yet, but I have an invitation to go check it out. So definitely next time I'm in Vegas, going to be checking that. I hope to see Zach there. I understand he hangs out there quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, I would definitely, I'm hearing such amazing things from that museum and the time. And if I know Zach, the details that are going to be based on people that have been there have told me, my God, they weren't expecting this thing to be so amazing. I have.
Uh-oh.
And he got booted off again.
Yeah.
But while he's booted off, Chuck, I got to tell you, my wife and I, one of the favorite things that we have, that we like about the Ghost Adventures crew is if you want to see stuff behind the scenes, if you want to see the more lighthearted, funny stuff behind the scenes, you have to log in sometime and check out Aaron's vlog. He has a video log that he takes, and some of the stuff they pull on there is just hilarious. But that is like the behind the scenes, in the hotel rooms, that kind of stuff, or while they're out shopping, that kind of stuff. It is extremely entertaining, and you get a taste of what these guys are actually like. Even though they're on camera, they're off camera, and it's not part of the network.
And I like that because, there are too many times that, some of the, even if you're a star, they're like, they have to walk and talk a certain way in order to be specific in the generality. Oh, bullshit, man. I love that. I'm going to check out. I'll check that out. Now, Darren, before you got that phone call, you were deep in thought and talk. So I'll let you continue.
I must have been too deep. What were we talking about, man? We got Ghost Adventures, man. Zach cracks me up because, I mean, if you don't know how to take him, he's pissed people off before. This is his personality because he'll tell you like he thinks it. I remember him coming up to me and saying, "Dude, what's up with everybody in Oklahoma having dragon toes, dude?" I'm like, I thought it was hilarious. But that doesn't mean he's judging Oklahoma people. It's just the way he is. He comes across wrong to certain people. I thought the guy was hilarious, and everything he does is very well thought out, sarcastic almost, and it's I enjoy being around people like that myself, so it's up there, to each their own.
He'd probably say, "Do you guys have potatoes in Iowa?" "No, it's corn, damn it. It's potatoes in Idaho." Yeah. Oh shit, man! I tell you, it's always there. Now, who's the biggest jokester out of the group? Is it Aaron?
Oh yeah, without a doubt, Aaron is the jokester. Always talking about something zany. He's quite the artist. So we were able to share some of our artistry amongst each other, and he's on such a. Last time I seen him, last November, he was just on such a health food. He'd lost quite a bit of weight. He kind of irritates people with the way he's always munching on something good for you, organic. Whether it be seeds or berries or just whatever Aaron's doing, he's high stepping through it, and so love him to death, man. He's a great guy, and it's always a pleasure to see him and work with him. He's just what a character he is, and so I wish there were more characters like him in the paranormal.
And he doesn't even care, and I love that about him as well. Now, what about your art? Let's talk art. We won't necessarily just talk about Zozo and that phenomena. What's your interest in art, and what do you do?
I design things, paintings, and I enjoy it, and are fortunate enough to sell quite a bit of my work to people that enjoy it. So it's it kind of takes my mind off the phenomenon and life's unpleasantries, and I can get into my artwork and put myself in a zone and reward the benefits, whether it be something conversation piece or a controversial darker piece, or possibly a inspirational godly piece. So it just depends on the mood, but it's that and music. I'm a guitar player, drummer, harmonica player, singer. So I like to keep the mind away from the darkness as much as possible as well. And I on social media, sometimes everybody just thinks I'm just all, for a while, people thought that's all I cared about was this demon, I've kind of run my course on it, unless something that hasn't happened yet happens. I mean, it's everything under the sun's happened with this. At Not Scary Park last year, there was a Zozo virtual reality attraction.
What?
You're kidding me.
No, if you YouTube Not Scary Farm and Zozo, you'll see where they made a virtual reality attraction last year based on their mazes and their laser mazes and stuff, where you could go in this room and sit at this huge table with a huge Ouija board, and the lights would turn off and the whole seance thing would begin, and then a weird Zozo demon would appear before your very eyes. And so, what are they going to come up with next? I mean, I just did a Google search today and found out they just made a new game based on the talking board, and guess who the bad guy is? It's Zozo. So it's taken on a Hollywood aspect. It really has, and it's I never would have dreamed that it would come to something like this, but what do you do? I mean, it's just crazy, the stuff I'm finding about it, and just as far-reaching as it is, all over the world, I have no explanation for how it's become what it has. It's very strange in that perspective of so many people experiencing it and so many people reporting it and talking about it. And it's just crazy.
Now, I don't know why this came up now, and it feels like I'm going back and forth. It's probably because, I'm going to be Dr. PhD in a year or so. But anyway, or Dr. ADHD, depending on how people want to throw that out there. But when you were playing the Ouija board in the Demon House during that Ghost Adventures show, how nervous was like Nick and Zach and during that episode?
I can tell you that the fear that you see in Nick and Zach and Aaron, it's all real. That place was bizarre. It's creepy. To go in that place and use a board, I hadn't been on a board in years. And I get back on, and weird things started to happen. The granddaddy long leg board, and leg busting off, and the noises that we were hearing when we were on the board. It was. There was no acting. There was no script either. My girlfriend was not even supposed to be in the episode, or my ex-wife was never supposed to be in the episode. There was a lot of accusations that it was very carefully scripted out and everything. There ain't a damn minute in that episode that was scripted in any way, And so it's hard for people to try to imagine that. But I mean, they don't script it out. They roll, And in the other episode I was in last year, the Samaritan Cult House episode. They shut down production because of the things that were going on, the things that were being said on this board. I had no idea Jay even had a brother. And for this thing to be saying what it was saying about his brother being sick, and he was sick at the time, and not doing well in the hospital, I found out later. But I didn't even know Jay had a brother, and this thing comes out, and it starts talking about his brother, and some of it had to have been edited out because of the subject matter. It was crazy. And Zach got in my face. He said, dude, did you know he had a brother? No, I didn't. And Jay knew I didn't. But there for a while, things really got heated up on the set because, shit was going crazy. All hell was breaking loose in that place, on the board. But as far as getting back to your question, I wanted to mention something about you being a Zeppelin fan. Now, heard of Joseph Stalin? Guess what his nickname was? Zozo.
His nickname was Zozo?
Yep, you can look it up and verify it. He was known as Zozo for years and years, especially in his childhood. But anyways, I found a very rare Led Zeppelin bootleg album with a picture of Joseph Stalin with a big egg on his face, and the name of the bootleg album, Zozo.
Oh my God. That's that's just absolutely crazy. And then, we talk about, we give the Crowley reference, both of us have had that. And then, you have the Crowley house that Jimmy Page bought. I mean, there's a lot of creepy intricacies when you look at what we're chatting about tonight. That's insane. Now, I do have to ask this because I don't know. How long does it take them to film like a Ghost Adventures film, or like our show? I mean, does this take like a week, 2 weeks?
It depends on the episode, but
Uh-oh.
Yeah, he's cutting in and out now. We've lost you, Darren.
Can't hear
lost
you. Lost
audio on you. We can't hear you.
That's weird.
I don't know what's going on there.
Oh, he's giving us the look. He's gonna.
Uh-oh.
Still can't hear you, partner. That's weird.
I don't know what's going on. Oh man, this is just crazy stuff. Hey, Chuck, go check your key. Is that thing moving, or what's the deal?
Ooh. I don't think so.
Okay, you're on a really small screen for me. It's really hard to tell, but maybe it was just pixelation on my end, but it looked like it was moving.
It could have been moving. He still can't hear us. We might have to call him back.
All right, let me get this Let me get this figured out here real quick, everybody. Chuck, you go ahead and keep on talking while I try to get this figured out here.
Okay. Well,
Hold on just 1 second.
While we're trying to get it figured out here, just oh crap, I got to find all this stuff. We do have a show 1 week from today. I do not remember our guest's name, which I should be smacked in the face.
That Jack Kenna, I think.
Yes, Jack Kenna. And when I don't have everything up here, I am kind of like the anchorman Ron Burgundy sometimes. So it's like, I have to read the freaking teleprompter. I don't know. Got a ton of things going on. Benji, tell everybody about all of our shows on the Beyond the Light Radio Network.
All right, give me a second here because I'm still trying to get him up and going. But yeah, hold on here just a second. I can tell you a little bit about all of our shows. So far, we're waiting to find out exactly what's happening with Haruko. But that is on Monday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific. She's on a bit of a vacation right now. But Tuesday nights, we have Psychic Divination Hour with Psychic Gen B, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Pacific. Wednesday nights, Experiences Within the Light with Candy Orton, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, 4:30 Pacific. Oh, wait. Moving back to Tuesday nights, I apologize. Jen's show is actually at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central, 6:30 Pacific. And that has to do with her new work schedule. So I apologize for that error. Candy's show on Wednesdays, Experiences Within the Light. I don't know if I listed all the time. 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, 4:30 Pacific. Thursday nights, Introspection with Matt Bennett, 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central, 6:30 Pacific. And Sunday nights, Enlighten 30, Death the Show with Chuck and Benji, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific. If you have any questions or would like information regarding any of our shows, please visit our website at beyondthelightnetwork.com or email us at info@beyondthelightnetwork.com. You can listen live from the beyondthelightnetwork.com shows tab. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. We are still trying to get him back on.
Okay. I did message him on the phone, just to kind of let him know that we're working on getting him back. Been a pretty interesting guest tonight, Benji. It's a lot of this stuff is very familiar. A lot of this stuff isn't, but it's definitely been a great show.
Yes, absolutely, definitely. Even I tried listening as much as I could while I was trying to take care of the little crisis over at the college, but yeah, it's been a crazy show. And you know what? I don't know how many more things could honestly technologically go wrong considering the subject matter that we're talking about right now.
It's really weird. Now Matt's leaving. He's got to put the kids to bed. Great show. We appreciate you coming in. George left a little bit earlier. Appreciated having George on. I'm trying to go all the way back, and it's not letting me. Luna, Sherry Ann, we've had a ton of people. I know Sarah's probably listening intently in the background as well. You are the greatest listening audience. I would never refer to you as fans, only friends, within the Beyond the Light Radio Network.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, it seems as though we cannot get him back on. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know why it's just not connecting with him. So I'm gonna try one more time here. See if I can get him back in. Maybe he had to restart his phone or something. We'll try one more time, see what we can do here. And
yeah, he said no problem. He's waiting on us. So hopefully we can get him back on. If not, perhaps later on down the road. So that's one of those things. Let's see. We'll give it a few more minutes. If we cannot get him on, oh, there he is.
Is he back on? Well,
I see the DE. Hopefully we see Darren here in just a few moments. Hopefully. Oh, Candy, you're not chopped liver, honey. I've been talking about you all night long. I love you, buddy. I got to throw that out there. Now,
right.
Now Darren came back on. He's hearing all this love shit. Now he's all pissed off and whatever. Can you hear us?
Well, we're back. We are back. We are officially back. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay,
All
great.
right, we can hear you. We're good.
Yeah, he could listen. He could hear that love stuff. But let's go back to this Led Zeppelin stuff, because that's where it's interesting. And the damn key was moving in the back, as you were talking about that.
Yeah.
So
The double-sided board was found amongst jars of preserved blackbirds. And so one of my first areas of research was, in an attempt to define Zozo in different languages. And one of those was in the ancient Basque language, where it means, Zozo actually means blackbird or crow. And so there's only one project that the Zozo sigil or symbol or whatever it is was used outside of the Led Zeppelin camp, and that was with his stint with the Black Crows.
And you know what's interesting, and I know that I don't look at anything as however it happens. But yesterday I'm at my book signing, Darren, and no shit, right above my car, on top of a street lamp in West Des Moines, Iowa, there's a black crow up there. So it's interesting that we would have so many technological issues, so many things that have happened, over the course of the last week, and your phone calls, all that sort of stuff. There is nothing that happens to chance, man, when it comes to these things.
Yeah, this coincidence is kind of a strange term, but here's a gentleman by the name of Jake Kotz, who is he studies what's known as synchromysticism, which is kind of like synchronicity, when something just too coincidental happens. But if you ever get a chance to read his blog called Rant in Z Minor, it's just amazing how this Zoe and Oz keeps showing up in different media, comic books, movies, and there does seem to be some type of parallel between the Oz and the Zoe, and again, when that thing said AZ, the demon Azazel, very, very
Azazel, yeah.
Demonic smoke. And when Crowley attempted to unlock the gates of hell and summon the demon Karanzan, the first and last word used in a phrase to summon that demon is Zaza.
Holy shit! And it's interesting. I have to give credit to one of my greatest friends in the paranormal, Kenny Addison, and I know he'll listen in later, and then he'll be like, "Oh, Chuck, what the hell are you talking about me for?" And he's an East Coasterner, so he talks like that shit. But he said that early on that I was dealing with Azazel, so that's interesting too. I think you and I have a long conversation ahead of us. You know what I mean about some of these things, because frankly, I think I've learned a lot over the years, but sometimes I'm like, I know nothing. That's the interesting facet about this whole deal.
It's when you get it, people like to make generalized assumptions when it comes to demonology, for instance. A lot of people don't believe that this thing could be a demon because it's not listed in the Necromonicon, the Egyptian or the Tibetan Book of the Dead, or just any of these literature references. It's not in any list of names of the demons when it comes to the big books that are out there. And so, do we dismiss this name or sigil or symbol or whatever the hell it is as being non-existent or non-dynamic because it's not in some book, or are we to really look at things, look at the board and its phenomenon? Who are people talking to? Who are people reporting talking to? And another very strange name that I've come across that on people having bad experiences with boards, it calls itself Nema, and then Nema backwards is Amen. So it does seem that they play name games, with these terms, these these names in association that they're calling themselves that. So it's just mind blowing how that exchange of unknown information is taking place on Ouija boards. Middle names, dates of birth, crimes. How is it able to pull this out of thin air? If we're not talking to an external spirit, and it's just it really doesn't make sense that science is able to just totally dismiss the phenomenon and all the stories, all the unknown information. That we're talking to our subconscious now. Admittedly, some of that is going on, but there's still gigantic holes in the ideomotor effect and how it attempts to explain this communication exchange. I'm not buying it.
And this isn't a Ouija board or the Zozo phenomenon, or at least I don't think so. But there was one night I was playing my SB7, and I know some people think that anything like that is rubbish. I'm here to tell you that there was one night, and I don't even have one of those antennas on it, and it said plain as day from this woman, Darren. It said, "Charles Anthony, hello," and immediately I'm like, oh, number one, there's nobody on the damn radio talking about Charles Anthony Banks, and number two, this it was crazy because the vision that I saw. In one of my Giblin Bridge or Birthday Bridge here in southern Iowa, it was a woman by the name of Elizabeth, and that had hung herself years ago. Now, again, I go by the name of Charles Anthony on Facebook, which is my spirituality component, and I keep that away from my day job, which my name's Chuck Banks or whatever, but I keep that away from my day job stuff. But yeah, I'm here to tell the listeners out there as well. If you haven't experienced it and you're a skeptic, fine. But I can guarantee you that if you've ever experienced any of these commonalities or anything associated with the paranormal, it's going to wake your ass up and it's going to change your life forever.
Now, I want to ask, and this is going back to what you were saying earlier. Where do these names come from that are in these books? I mean, who is to say that whoever put together this plethora of books with all the demonic and underworld names and everything has an entire list of every single demon or entity or whatever you want to call them in existence? And where are they pulling all of these names out of, and who all is putting them together? I mean, some of these books are ancient, but how did they get this information without doing some form of research?
That's true, and just because names like Zozo and Zaza and stuff aren't in these books that supposedly lists like the 72 or 77 demons, there's so many names out there, that and people, it's funny seeing the reaction sometimes from people perhaps not very well educated in demonology when they say, well, it sounds like Bozo the Clown, so therefore it's got to be bullshit. What? I don't concern myself with being able to prove what it is. We know that it's something. And again, the labels that we put on it. But here's what I kind of enjoy in a sarcastic way, with an evil black tooth grin. Every time I find a reference about it, it's always demonic. I just found one of the most interesting ones to date, involving the pre-Zen Buddhist Tibetan demonology in the 7th century. A professor of Asian studies actually just in the last 20 years wrote about this prophecy that he had found in his studies of early Tibetan demonology. And I have links to it on my blog. You can check it out. the only way that I even found this particular reference was because a young man out of Tibet contacted me about a school that was way up in the mountains up there, where there was this old man, ghost type figure, that was pushing people to their deaths, students, faculty members to their death, just outside of the school, plunging them off cliffs. Its name was Zozo. That's what they called it. And so I started looking into the Tibetan demonology before, the Buddhists take over. And that's when I found this prophecy where it basically says that mankind is going to go through all these epochal events that signify things that happen leading to the destruction of mankind. Well, it discusses how a king releases from the ninth circle of hell a human being that becomes the lord of all demons. It basically registers this new beginning of the end stage in their end of their Armageddon. And guess what this lord of all demons human being's name is?
You're shitting me.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
And parts of that prophecy almost describe the things that are happening right now. I was able to find a person had written into a paranormal website about an experience they had on a Ouija board months before Trump even suggested he was going to run for president. This Ouija entity comes out and they ask it who's going to be the next president, and it's spelled Donald Trump. And it also said that he would lead us into the war with China. So that's some pretty scary shit.
Yes.
Yeah, that's some
And it's dated. It's dated. I checked it out. It's dated before he even announced his presidential running.
Oh my God. That's clarity. And kind of to add to that, Benji, when you're talking about who puts the names, I mean, even if you look at early Christianity and you look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, they were found. How many like chapters in the Bible were left out? During the original Pope. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of interesting facets when we look back at that. And I'm sure that I'm almost 100%. Well, I can't say 100% shit. I can say that I'm going to make an assumption that possibly all the names, all the true names are in the Vatican. But that's my opinion. And I'm going to.
How do we know?
Hey, I do have to throw this out there. I'm hoping that that's somebody else's arm behind you, Darren, because I was like, oh shit, he's growing arms.
The same thing. Oh, I was thinking something was creeping up behind him there. Something, not someone.
I find all this weird stuff, right? And I recently run across another mentioning in a manuscript written by a teacher of the Zen faith. And in this manuscript, he describes a state of consciousness where one must avoid the Zo, and it describes it as a state of mind that one goes through that attracts the demons towards you. The state of Zo. Now, the actual demons' names, they call them. This individual called them the Ma, M-A, and so. In addition to Zozo surfacing, it's not uncommon for the weird mama entity to coexist, to show up, to surface. So here's a trainer, a professor of Zen Buddhism, writing his stuff down in which he describes that state of consciousness, the Zo, and he also describes it as rocking back and forth as you go into this weird state of mind that he calls the Zo that attracts demons towards you. And so that's another bizarre find. Someone actually saying that the root word Zo attracts demons. So over and over and over, I'm finding these types of references towards it being demonic. Even in the root sense, I got in touch with the gentleman by the name, he's an etymologist by the name Dr. Joseph Santok, who actually run the etymology of the root word Zo and actually tied it to very early voodoo in old Africa, and that it meant a spiritual leader. And so here we go. Hundreds of years later, you have what's known as the Zo shamans of Africa. That's in a scientific periodical. It was released information that these Zo clans, these Zo shamans that practice these bizarre scarification rituals, drink each other's blood and that kind of stuff, they were known to spread Ebola, that second wave of Ebola that went through Africa, that they were at the heart of that spreading of Ebola, the Zo shamans. So it's just mind-blowing, the shit that I'm finding on this stuff with this word, this whatever it is, this bad energy. So, I mean, it's just crazy.
It definitely is. Now, Benji's face looks like not only is Benji a sexy son of a bitch and he looks like Mr. Clean, but he looks like he has a question.
No, I'm just in awe at everything he's finding, and I'm just reading what everybody's been saying in the Spreaker chat about going back about the Vatican hiding information, most of the information that it has, and that kind of stuff. But
there is a connection with the Vatican with me and the whole Zozo phenomenon. I have site trackers on my original blog that I interestingly enough, I haven't been able to have access to it for like 5 years, but I'm still able to track the traffic that lands on this particular website, the first one that I ever come out with, in regards to the phenomenon. Well, my site trackers kept logging in an individual that every time I would log in, it would mirror that login, okay? And so while I thought it was someone else, it was actually someone had spoofed my URL and sent it to where it looked like when I logged in, I was logging in from St. Anne's Cathedral Catholic Church in Salt Lake City, Utah. I contacted that church. Someone answered the phone, and I told them who I was. They hung up on me. But the strangest aspect of it, I have hundreds of logs from the American consulate to the Pope landing on my website hundreds of times, like they're keeping up with what's going on with it. So do I think that they may have a clue of what's going on? Indeed, I do. With their amazing network of archives that they have there, that, as I understand it, you have to know exactly what you're looking for before you even go in there, with all kinds of weird policies and stuff that goes on when you go in there and are able to search small sections of the archive. So,
now,
yeah, they're basically their own form of secret government,
and
in my opinion.
And it's interesting that somebody from a cathedral would hang up on anybody, and especially when you mention your name being hung up. That's crazy. Benji, you have a question in Facebook.
Yeah, this is another question from Candy. So would he say that the Zo shamans were the first practitioners of dark magic, for lack of a better term?
Well, the etymologist had traced the word as meaning spiritual leader in the voodoo, the whole voodoo thing. So that was as far back as he could go with it. So, and that goes a long way. The Basque language, in which Zozo means blackbird or crow, that's one of the earliest languages known to man. And so this shit goes back a long time. This whatever this thing that keeps getting mentionings of it being a demon. I found another demonic reference in a play that was written in 1966 called the Fantasy of Theater and the Fantasy of Jacques Alberti. Okay, just weird play that was written.
Sounds dirty.
In which Alberti. But in this play, there's a character that's called Zozo that they called the incarnation of the devil that was present during the whole Adam and Eve thing that was going on. I mean, what is it about this name that's continuously being, this last month we had the burning of the effigy, the Zozobra. That's been around for over 100 years now. So we're just finding example. There's a Malaysian children's book that was written in the 70s that describes an evil kid eating a UFO creature that they called Zozo. It just blows my mind, all the stuff that I find as far as it being from an evil, demonic, negative energy, type thing. So some people say it's just coincidence. Matter of fact, one of the guys for the Talking Board Historical Society doesn't like me very well. He'd gone and made some public remarks about how all this stuff that I find is just doesn't mean shit, doesn't prove nothing, and maybe it doesn't, but I still find it interesting, all these different scenarios and demonic references. So anybody that doesn't, I kind of have to question their belief, because are you going to look at the evidence, or are you just going to dismiss it as bullshit? You would think someone with being a member of the Talking Board Historical Society might approach things a little differently, but he's not a big fan of mine, and I don't give a shit. He's got his world he lives in, and I live in mine. So, but I just caution people, look at the evidence. And I got to go, guys. I just tell people, until you have an experience of the paranormal, you're probably not going to believe in this phenomenon. But if you get on a board and this thing comes through and you get a chill that comes over you and you feel something watching you, and you may see a shadow person, or you may have shit start happening to you, it's happened to hundreds and hundreds of people across the world, and I've thousands of people that have shared with me their experiences. And so I've got enough spooky stories to probably write another couple of books. So just on the scary stories that I've collected involving people writing into me with their stories. So guys, I want to thank you for having me discuss this. And you guys are cool. You guys are respectful. I appreciate that. I've been on some shows where didn't really realize what I was getting into until they started being disrespectful. And I can't stand me, being someone that was in paranormal radio for 6 years. I always treated my guests with respect and an open mind. And I appreciate you guys for doing that with me. Being the controversial guy that I am, thank you for giving me a chance to talk about it. And I appreciate you guys being cool about it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate you coming on. I'll definitely be in touch with you. I'll send you that EVP. Also, can you share with anybody where they can get your website, your blog, or where they can follow you on social media?
I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Darren Evans. There's a couple other Darren Evanses. I don't think anybody looks like Ozzy though. So just look for the Ozzy looking guy, and you'll find me. It's if you type in Darren Evans Ouija board or whatever, it'll just bring up all kinds of crazy shit. So, but it's not something I really care to sit here. I don't want to do another show now for a while, because you can become overly feed it too much energy.
For
and
sure.
I think it was the Gnostics that said that Jesus actually said that the reason that we, it's our lack of knowledge is basically why find ourselves in trouble sometimes.
Sure, True.
And so I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to tell people like it is, that these boards can cause bad things to happen in your life. I know that for a fact. That's all I need to know, and that's all these people need to know. But people are going to do it anyway, by God. And I'm just glad that not everybody that gets on one has a exorcist type experience. So again, I want to tell people, don't be scared. If this thing comes across, don't feed it with your fear. Tell it to take a hike and get rid of the board. And
we lost him again.
Yeah.
All right.
He just cut right out.
Darren, if you can hear us, you cut out. We love you, partner. Thanks for coming on. Definitely, it was a great show, great experience. So, anyway, for Darren, he gave us the freaking Aussie look. That's badass. Anyway, Benji, I'm going to let you give the last word. It's not the last thought. It's the last word of our show tonight.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and give the last word here real quick. Everybody just know limits exist only in the mind. Believe in yourself. Have faith in your abilities. Without a humble but reasonable confidence in your own powers, you cannot be successful or happy.
Boom. Anyway, my last thought is this. Nothing but love and respect to all you friends out there of the network and of us. We'll see you again in 1 week from tonight on Enlightened 30 Death the Show. Night, everybody.
Good night.